town?
Yes, he is.
He is out, and Regina will be running the meeting, so to speak, remotely, but I'll be her eyes and ears and get it going anyway.
All right, well, with that, let us call to order this meeting for Finance Committee, Tuesday, August 9th. We have a quorum present, and does anyone have any communications that they wish to share?
The only communication was from me. It's the same email that I sent out earlier in regards to net new construction and equalized value. So I just put it on the agenda in case there was any questions from this committee.
Yes, see, the Hub had an article on it using the information you gave him.
I heard he was going to. I haven't seen the paper yet, though.
It was a short article, decent.
Okay, good.
I didn't see any glaring flaws.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
Greg, what was that about? Greg, what was the op-ed about?
It was not bad. It was about the 2.43.
Oh.
You know, and that's, it was just saying, hey, we got some growth, you know, basically. You know,
Yep.
about it.
Looks like good news.
The numbers that Dave gave them, and then it was just just an FYI basically for the community. So,
Right.
no big deal.
I know there's like with that equalized value in there, there's like kind of with growth, there's like an upper bound and a lower bound, right? Whereas you have to get
Right.
above a certain thing and below a certain thing to.
Yeah, numerator, denominator.
Right,
So,
right.
yes, the mill rate will definitely drop. It's a mathematical function.
Hopefully we can keep that up for about 2 or 3 years, and then at least 3 years.
I think we're going to get less for net new construction next year. I can't imagine us having 2 record years in a row for net new construction.
Mhm.
Well, if 51 West gets going, and if
Right,
of course,
but
that's going to be in the following year, though, isn't it?
yep, it's going to be based upon this January 1 value.
Yeah. So it'll probably drop then for this next year, but then hopefully it'll be back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only ones that won't be happy out of that growth would be, at least based on the overall value of the community, would be the school district, because they're funding
That's yep.
more value and fewer students widens their gap.
Right. Well, we are attracting people to come
Yep.
to the city, so, I can't tell if that's going to increase enrollment or not.
Right, yeah, it'll hopefully, it looked like it was heading toward a level off point.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if that can maybe hold it and reverse the trend, so.
Yeah, reverse
Got-
it. Turn it up.
What, a decade, 12 years of decline to try and reverse. All right, any other communications? All right, and reports we will catch in the second meeting of the month. So we'll see those then. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the July 26th committee minutes.
Move to approve? Oh,
Second.
second, what, take
All
your
right.
pick,
Take your
yes.
Flip a coin. Are there any questions about that, corrections? All right, hearing nothing, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, those minutes are accepted. First bit up we've got tonight is a resolution authorizing and directing proper city official to enter into an access agreement with Uniroyal Global Engineered Products.
Rodney, are you there?
I am here. I'm sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Thank you. This is really familiar. You'll be real familiar with this. This is the same essentially language that we had in place prior to it expiring. They had another round of testing done and had to work through the work plan process with the DNR for the expanded testing. That's been now settled with the DNR. So this extends our agreement, or really it's a new agreement to replace the one that had expired for some additional testing on our Stoughton Utilities location at South 4th Street. We were able to keep them from doing the drilling within the building, which was their original direction, so we're glad we were able to have them do their testing outside of the building.
Rodney, is this essentially an extension of their groundwater monitoring that they had in place before, or was there a new alarm trigger that DNR was concerned about?
It was a continuation to explore further the same I don't know, palette of contaminants that they were tracing before. It's not a new hit or a new contaminant that they're trying to find. They're just trying to delineate the extent of it.
Okay. Do you have any questions on those?
The reason this was time sensitive is that they actually are planning to do the testing at the end of the month, this month, and so this needed to have time to actually get put in place with our corporate office as well after we approve it.
Anybody want to know about tetrahydrofuran or any of the other chemicals listed in there?
Oh, thank you.
The worst things in the world, from what I remember, right?
They're not awful, but you certainly wouldn't want to have them in high concentration, that's for sure. There are worse. All right, nobody has any questions with that, then I would entertain a motion to recommend to council.
I'll make that motion.
All right,
Second.
okay, second. Is that Lisa, or did you say Greg?
There, I don't know, we both kind of at the same
did.
time.
I wrote
Fine,
down
yeah.
Lisa.
All right, perfect. Any other questions on this? All right, all in favor, aye.
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 And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that up to council tonight then. These, let's see, not this, the Arpa one, but the remaining ones, I'm assuming, Dave, are accounting corrections
Somewhat.
somewhat? Okay,
Somewhat.
okay.
Two are a little bit more complicated.
Okay, all right, well, let's just get through them one by one then. Then the adopting or amending the 2022 budget for ARPA fund.
This is a case where sometime during 2021, council approved paying Stoughton Utilities $110 for the lead replacement project. We paid it out in '22. I just need budgetary authority to pay it out. So we're kind of doing it retroactively.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and that seems simple enough to me for a worthwhile project, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good reasons for it.
And this is coming from the ARPA.
Correct.
Yep.
So you need a motion to move forward
to approve.
Council?
All right, we got Ben with a motion to approve
I'll second.
and a second by Greg. Does anybody have any other questions about what this is or why we're... All right, we're all clear on that then. All in favor, aye.
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 And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one up to council. And Dave, these will be in 2 weeks. Council
Correct.
meeting, right? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't
Gonna
put them
split
as
some of
time
these up?
sensitive. I
Okay.
didn't think they needed to be. Try and stay away from that when I can.
Sure, sure. All right, next bit up is, I was gonna say next item up for bid. Must be watching Prices Right too much. Amend the 2022 budget for Arts Council Fund.
This is a type of accounting correction. We had a separate fund for the Arts Council in the general ledger. the auditors are correctly combining it with the general fund, so I'm just combining the two funds together for consistency.
No impact,
Pardon me?
no impact.
No impact, right. Other than I've got increased transfer in, transfer out, basically.
Okay. I would recommend to council.
All right,
Second.
motion by Greg, second by Ozzy. This then eliminates that Fund 239, Dave, is that correct?
Correct. It'll still appear in the financials for '22,
Yep,
you know, with the transfer out, but then the bottom line will be zero, and '23, it will not exist anymore.
okay, so, I'm guessing your project is to ultimately pare down some of these funds that are out there.
Right.
How many do we have offhand, do you know? A guess?
According to the management discussion and analysis, Jamin had 37 funds.
Okay, okay,
And with this stack, assuming everything goes through, I'm eliminating 5 of them.
all right. Well, that makes it a little easier on the book end, so,
Mhm.
and audit end, I'm sure, so,
Right, then the auditors don't have to combine things together, and our
Right.
general ledger equals the financial statements.
because I thought, didn't you make a remark in here somewhere where we're actually getting charged some fees for having to do these manipulations in audit?
Yep,
Okay, so, I mean, it ultimately then is a cost savings, because.
cost savings and less work for us, less work for the auditors.
Perfect. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other questions on this consolidation?
Just a quick one,
Yep.
Dave. On all of these, Dave, obviously it's making it more streamlined.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, don't you lose some control, or not control, but do you lose, I guess it would be control. Do you lose some control over those,
No,
those monies for these,
really,
more funds?
what's happening, for instance, the Art Council is now, for lack of a better terms, it's a division within the city council budget. So you've got, and I don't remember the division numbers, but Division 1 would be city council, Division 2 is Art Council. You know, so there is separate, we can track them, and then Art Council, because it's all donations, you know, it's still going to be separate, it's still going to be a restricted fund balance because of the source. So it's basically just changing the account number from whatever it was, 214 dash something to 100 dash something now.
Right, so I mean,
And the dash something identifies it as.
Correct. The first 3 digits are the fund number. Second 5 digits are the, what BSNA calls the departments, I call the division. And then the last 5 are the object number for the type of account, wages, benefits, whatever it is.
Wasn't part of it the reason because of the new counting system you're putting in, it's gonna be easier to track too?
Well, I'm not putting in a new system per se.
Well, whatever that was you talked about the last time.
I believe you're talking about where I had the general revenues and things like that, so we could track that.
Yeah.
Yeah, general revenues has its own, that's Department 8888, so, yeah. In midstream, it looks odd because I'm not finished, but once everybody sees it in operation, it will make more sense. And so, Ben, for instance, the accounting on the Sustainability Committee that they got from the ARPA funds is, again, well, no, not ARPA funds, it's from General Fund Balance. Sustainability Committee is now a division in the City Council's budget. So same concept, yeah, we'll be able to keep all those separate, and let's assume for a minute that sustainability has $1,000 at year end, then I'm assuming we're going to ask to carry forward that 1,000 for the sustainability for the subsequent year.
Otherwise, it would roll back in.
Otherwise, it rose to the, or lapses to the general fund.
Okay.
And then if that does happen, then we would have to reallocate in the next year, is that right?
Correct, but technically a carry forward is amending the subsequent year budget anyway. So you either do it as a carry forward, or whoops, we forgot it, and 3 months later you amend the budget.
Sure, okay, got it. All right, because I was just thinking, I'll guarantee that we'll have an oops, we forgot to carry this over, and,
Correct, it should be a combination of the departments and myself. You try between the two to catch it, but not everything gets caught, but you can correct it.
okay, that's good. As long as we have a mechanism in place that we can make it right.
Right, and so as kind of the tail end of the budget, I work with the departments. It's like, okay, you've got whatever 5,000 left in this program. Do you think you're going to spend all 5,000? Well, if not, they say I'm only going to spend 3,000. Then we're going to plan a carry forward, which kind of helps remind us to do a carry forward.
Right. And that kind of relates to, I know we used to, Jamin would have this report where it was, or he would show us a lot of the carryovers from year over year.
Right.
I don't know if I can't remember if he did that quarterly or something like that. It was quarterly or something like that, but it was one of those where, we were just like, just to eyeball it and see and watch, because it was a lot of times it'd be the construction projects, and then they would fall off after a couple of years or something. They'd get paid out and go away. But it was always interesting to see when we'd have something from 2018, like, should we kill that one off or continue carrying that one over? Anyway. All right, any follow-up, Greg? All right, does anybody have any other questions on that? I don't remember, do we have a motion and a second on this one?
I do not believe so. We're on the Arts Council,
We're on
yes.
the
We had a
Arts
motion and
Council one.
second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on that one. And any other questions for this Arts Fund amendment? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we will recommend that one to council. Next up is the amendment for 2022 budget for fire pension fund and fire equipment fund.
Okay, this is partially a correction and partially a revamp of accounting. Or let me rephrase that, partially a closing of a fund and partial correction. In regards to the fire dues and pension contributions, we've been splitting the expenses between the two funds and then allocating revenues. I think we're making it too complicated. What I'm doing is allocating all the expenses to the fire pension fund so that everything's sitting there together, and then the general fund gets the leftovers, basically whatever comes in from the fire dues that isn't needed to pay the pension payments. So that's step number one. Step number two, the fire equipment fund has had a value sitting there since 2016 of $16,612, and nothing's happened with it. So I'm recommending we just get rid of that fund, close it into the general fund. And I've talked to Josh already about that, and he's fine with it.
Which fund was that again?
That's the fire equipment fund.
Fire equipment fund, okay. Because that's in the capital improvement anyways.
Yes, that would be a
That
capital
would be
improvement one, yeah.
That'd be, yeah.
Was there anything that he could have used that for, or is it?
I suppose he could use it for current year equipment or whatever. I'm open to, if somebody wanted to say, instead of putting it to general fund, I want to buy, more suspenders or something. I just said, let's put it there. Josh didn't counter back and say, I'd like to use that money for this. So if somebody wants to use it for a different purpose, obviously council has that prerogative.
Got it.
Like I said, they've been sitting there since 2016. I figure 5+ years of no activity, it's not needed.
But if they wanted to do that, if they needed to come to us, that's the way it should be done in the first place.
Correct.
Us and get our approval on it, yeah.
Yep.
Whenever it comes to budgeting money. So, yep, I'm happy with that.
That'll probably be one we'll have to keep in the back of our minds when CIP comes up, because he might say like, hey, you remember that 16,000 that,
Yeah.
you know, we might need some new uniforms or something, or,
Well, he won't have it anymore, though.
all right, any other questions on this one? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to recommend this to council.
Would recommend approval.
All right,
Second.
motion by Greg, second by Ozzy. Any other questions on this one? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one up to council. Next bit up is amend 2022 budget for safety building fund.
Okay, this has got a couple purposes. Number one, just like the Art Council, the auditors have been combining this fund together with the general fund, so I'm combining them in our general ledger for consistency. But number two, the safety building fund had a negative fund balance of 2613. So we need to essentially transfer 2613 to the safety building fund to close that out.
That would be coming from the general fund.
Yes, unassigned general fund balance.
I see, you said 2013, I'm assuming you're rounding up?
Yeah,
Okay.
$2,612.80. So the budget is for 2613, and I'm going to transfer 2612.80.
I would make the motion to recommend to council.
All right. Is that you, Ozzy? All right. Motion and a second. Are there any other questions on this one? And this one again, just to make accounting a little cleaner, and we're not having a negative balance in that fund also.
Correct. We should never have a negative fund balance, and yes, we're making it cleaner. Again, the auditors don't need to be making entries to combine the two funds together, so we are saving some audit fees too.
Perfect. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one to council. Next up is to amend the 2022 budget for technology fund and IT media services.
Okay, this is a combination of fund closure and eliminating an Arpa request, basically. The first thing is that we've had 31,000 just sitting there at year-end 21. There's no request or nothing budgeted at all for 22. And we haven't put any funding into the technology fund, which is a capital projects fund, since 2019. So because it was for technology, and the IT media services had two requests from at a couple weeks ago for ARPA funds for the bow wall and also Telview equipment. I thought in this case, rather than transferring the monies to the general fund, we would increase the IT media services budget for those items, but the amount in the technology fund wasn't quite enough, so then I'm recommending a transfer from the unassigned general fund balance of $63.52 to give them full funding for it. And then that takes it off the ARPA requests.
Okay, then that would zero, once those are purchased, that would zero that account out.
Well, we'd actually move all the funds, transfer the funds from the technology funds to IT media services, so that'll clear everything out. And then IT media services budget is increased.
Okay.
Oh, and there were some ongoing expenses, yearly expenses with this, right? So then that we'd have to fund that through that technology fund or operations or something?
He's just gonna put it through his operational fund.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're talking about for the police updates and everything.
Well, just.
No,
I
there's
think-
like a $9,400 or whatever. The first year subscription to Bullwall was
Subscriptions, yeah.
13,000 something, and then it was 9,000 something for subsequent years. But he's planning on having that included in his budget for subsequent
I
years.
was thinking that's what he said. Okay, just double checking. Thank you.
Yep.
And again, this is coming from general fund then.
Yeah.
Yes, unassigned general fund balance.
I would make the motion to move the 6352 from the general fund to the technology,
May I make a suggestion and just,
services.
I would just move to approve the resolution as written, because there are multiple
Okay.
things going on.
Okay, move to approve the resolution or to recommend the resolution as presented.
Second?
All right, and second by Lisa. And I think this is a good idea to do that, because I think when we funded that technology fund to begin with, I think we took that out of unassigned fund balance as well when we were getting.
I didn't look for the source.
I think that's where we got it. It was when we were starting to get to that point where we were kind of pushing our upper boundary on what we had for fund balance, where,
Mhm.
forget, it's like 25%, and we were getting to like 26+% or something like that.
We're at 32.5% right
Right.
now.
So we peeled a little bit out to get some things done. I think they did a lot of laptop and desktop upgrades and things like that, and some of the networking equipment, I think, as
Provides
well.
also the networking provides, we think that was part of it.
Yep, yep.
Well, and to be honest, I understand why, but all you're basically doing is saying, instead of taking it out of the general fund, unassigned fund balance, we're gonna move it to another fund and then take it out of that fund balance. Why
Right,
are we
right.
moving things around?
Yeah. Very true. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but,
Well, and every finance director looks at things differently.
Right.
I think the thought was is to just make it easier to try and keep track of it.
right, or kind of,
But according to what Dave's saying, it's still gonna be easy to keep track of, so.
yeah.
Right, and the fact that we funded it once in 19 and haven't funded it again, it's like, okay, why do we have this fund?
Right.
As long as it makes the auditors happy.
No, the auditors will be happy to have less funds to deal with. They'll still have
True.
22 because it'll have activity, but once it's closed, it'll be much easier.
All right, cleaner. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on that. Any other questions on this one? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one to council. Next bit is amend the 2022 budget for the tourism fund.
Okay, this one is definitely a correction of a problem. The room tax monies, we give 90% to Stoughton Visitor Services and Stoughton Chamber of Commerce, keep the other 10% as revenue for the general fund. So it should be just a in and out. You know, the money that comes in gets appropriated to the right places. So when I was looking at the fund, I said, why do I have almost $26,000 in fund balance? And so then when I looked, I've got 23,600 in round figures. That's prior to BS&A, so it's from 2006 and prior. I don't know how to look that information up anymore. There's interest income of about $500, our policy never really says what to do with the interest income. And in the course of 14 years, we've got about $1,900 surplus. I could dig into that and determine, should that be general fund? Should that be paid out to other entities? If that's what the committee and council want me to do. But on the majority of it, the 23,600, I don't know how to figure that balance out. It's on an old computer system. I don't know how to look it up. We probably got it somewhere, but it's going to take a lot of time and effort to track it down and then figure out the accounting on it, especially because it's have a different chart of accounts and activity. So I'm recommending we just take we transfer the remaining 25,927 back to the unassigned general fund balance. Like I said, I just want to bring up the fact it's possible that 1868.82, I may owe a portion of that to Stoughton Chamber of Commerce and Stoughton Visitor Services. I did not dig into it, but I just wanted to bring to the committee's attention.
All I can say is that from 2006 on, we've had at least 4 finance directors. I don't know how in the world you'd figure this out.
Right.
I'm comfortable with just moving it.
So just to clarify, so all of the room tax fees, they were just a parking lot, and then it gets turned right back over. We don't keep, the city as a whole, per se.
The city keeps 10%.
We do keep 10%.
Right. So if we get $1,000 in, Chamber of Commerce will get
See that?
900, or between Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Services, they'll get $900 and we get $100.
Yep, I do see that now, and,
And segueing, just for a minute, as long as we are talking about the tourism fund, we did not receive the room tax for True by Hilton for the second quarter. I know you're shocked. We did not receive the charge for the interest that they owe us either, so I think I'm going to be fighting that every quarter. This time, I'm not even giving them grace on this one. They, that was the direction from council, or the committee last time, and I'm not inclined to give them any more grace periods.
No. They get the money right away, they can,
Right, they're using it for cash flow for whatever they have, and they're claiming business is down, hence their, what's the word I'm looking for, lawsuit to get the property assessed at a lower level. So that's where they're coming from. They might be doing this as a strategy as part of that lawsuit to say, yeah, look, we're always behind. I don't know.
that's unfortunate.
Did that answer your question, Lisa?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this one? This one's, like I say, it's a little more complicated because it stretches back so many years, so,
Right, with an unknown.
right.
I'd make the motion then to recommend to council approval as presented.
All right. Motion by Greg, is there a second on that?
second.
Second by Ozzy. Any other questions on that, or with what we intend, how to do this? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one to council, and that one will probably take just an extra moment of explanation on that one, because
It's going to be out of the ordinary.
right.
In fact, the next two are out of the ordinary.
Well, that's great, we saved the best ones for last. All right, well, let's get into it. Amend 2022 budget for vested compensated absences.
Okay.
I have never heard.
I don't know how the practice started, but we have PILTs, some places call it pilot, I prefer PILT, payment in lieu of taxes, that we're getting from an entity called Stoughton Utilities, which is a department of the city of Stoughton. For some reason, we've been saying that payment that we usually get February to April should be reserved as assigned fund balance and not available for use. There's no reason when it's basically internal that we need to assign that fund balance. So step one, I'm saying stop having it as assigned fund balance for that purpose. That's step number one. Step number two, the current and forthcoming accounting standards related to government's funds say that accrued benefits are not to be recognized until they're known to be payable. So, for instance, we had, these must have been known when we were setting up the budget, that we had 3 police officers planning to retire. And technically, that, under the GASB 16, that should have been an expense for last year. But I'm not going back to fix the last year's books. But, so that's an expense for this year. What I am recommending is that the 800 and, where's the number? 850067, that we've just said we're no longer going to have it as an assigned fund balance. I said, let's set that aside for retirement payouts of sick leave. So now we have a place to pay all these monies out. So we're really not costing us anything. I'm just moving the classifications. And then step 3 is that within the general revenues, I am recommending we amend the budget, putting another $85,000 into it for future retirement payouts, because I imagine in the next 4 months, or with announced retirements for early next year, that $85,000 is going to be needed. If it doesn't get used, it'll lapse. But basically what will happen then is that $85,000, let's just say Sally retires and her payout is $35,000. I'm going to reduce that reserve by $30,000, transfer it to planning and development, because that's where she works, so that when planning and development has that expense, now they've got the revenue to pay for that. So it's kind of a net neutral effect for them.
Got it.
And then this will also give us the advantage that we're putting it into the correct area, because what happened in the past is it went into one account and the auditors had to request what it's for, then they had to reclassify for the financial statements and for Form C, so we were paying more audit fees for that too.
Yeah, okay. And then
Long-winded explanation, but does that make sense to everybody?
It does. And did you talk with Director Gillingham about?
Yes, this covers about 68% of the balance, and she was ecstatic that we're at least got something out there.
You got a plan?
Right now, that balance, it won't go out in the next year or two, but, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when people retire, yes, it will. So we're not going to need 100% funding right away, but covering 68% makes it much easier.
Right. Got it. Lisa, do you have a question?
Well, so the 850,000, can you explain more about that? That's the piece that I'm a little confused.
Okay, explain the PILT side or the assignments side?
Well, I guess the 850,000 is you're going to reclassify it from PILTs?
Well, no, it's not getting reclassified from PILT. We, in calendar year 21, we recognized revenue of $850,000, had it as a due from utilities. But then in addition to that, that same dollar amount, we put as assigned fund balance. Well, when you're looking at fund balance, as long as you can reasonably assume that you're going to collect it, in our case, it's within 60 days of year end, you can recognize it as revenue. And then from a city's point of view, we've already got it. It's just Stoughton Utilities, Fund 600, owes General Revenues, Fund 100. So we've got the money there. There's absolutely no reason to assign fund balance and leave it out that, well, we're just going to leave it sitting there every year. So that balance has fluctuated every year, but it's 800 to 900,000 each year. And in my opinion, there's no reason to leave it there as an assigned fund balance.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's not really going anywhere, it's just getting reclassified.
Reclassified, and in this case, I'd be using essentially 85,000 of it to have a reserve for current year, so that when Mike, Jim, and Sally retire, we've got enough money that we can put it into the department's budget so that they do not suffer a loss.
All right. And utilities finance understands all of this?
Utilities is completely different.
Okay.
Utilities, stormwater, and emergency medical services are full accrual accounting, which means that what they have for the accrued liability for sick and vacation, they've already expensed.
Okay.
So when let's just say Jill retires next year for conversation. In that case, the accounting entry will be credit cash and debit the liability, lowering the liability. There's no effect on the income statement at all for those three funds.
All right, that was a lot. Everybody got that? There's a quiz after.
I wouldn't want the quiz, but I think I understand enough to.
I said,
I'm going home.
Go ahead, Ozzy.
is there an unlimited amount that one person can accumulate? Or is there a cap?
Yes, there is. I do not know the maximum amount,
If
but
there is a cap, though.
there is a cap on it. Every place I've worked, the sick leave bank is capped. I
Right.
just don't know our cap off the top of my head.
Can't remember offhand what that was.
I
think
thought
that
it was
in-
too, but I don't remember.
Yeah, that was in our personnel manual. I remember reading across it at some point, but I don't recall
Right.
what that exact number was.
I can track that down by the time of the
Yeah,
next
all of us
meeting.
are-
It's in that personnel manual.
It is,
Brett
yeah,
said we
yeah.
can look it up in there.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, does anybody have any other questions on this one?
I make a motion to recommend to council.
All right, and is there a second for that?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, second by Greg. Any other questions on this? I know this one was a little fuzzier than the other.
Next one's gonna get even fuzzier.
That's great. All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to council and probably have to go through the same
Oh, yeah.
description hoops on this one, so we're good with that. All right, let's get into the really
Okay,
interesting one, amend 2022 budget for sick leave.
okay. This is partially a correction, partially a fund closure. The fund closure is the fact that we've had the activity in a separate fund. The auditors are putting it into the general fund and the financial statements, so we need to combine them together. We can't have it as a separate fund. Issue number two, which I kind of discussed before, is we were putting everything into one general ledger account, which then the auditors had to reclassify out of a holding account and put it to public safety, public works, general government, wherever it needs to go in the financial statements. So we've been having extra fees for that. And with the closure, well, there's 164,000 beginning balance that I'm saying, let's put that to the, transfer that back to the general fund as part of the closure. And so then when I take that balance less the 165,000 payout, and the fact that this fund was saying it would have a deficit for current year. When I massage all those numbers together, the bottom line is that I'm proposing to increase the assigned retirement reserve that we just created in the prior resolution, increasing the reserve, not the 85,000, but, in the fund balance by another 31,754. So, and that's just kind of the plug entry where it comes to. And so then this leaves everything at the 85,000, which was the intent of the first one. So when Mike, Jim, and Sally retire, we hope that 85,000 is enough in the current year for the next 4 to 5 months.
That one is more complicated.
And I'm not seeing that one in the packet. When I was trying to, or is it combined with another? I looked for it earlier and I thought, well, maybe it's all part of the compensated absences.
It looked like I got the backup for it, but I did not include the resolution in there. I apologize for that.
I don't know, do we need to?
I can find it on and put it on the screen.
Can we still act on it if it's not in there? I don't know, actually.
I think you can still act on it. If I put it on the screen, everybody
Let's see it.
assumably should be comfortable with it. Finance. Packets. Finance. Let's go back into resolutions. That's the 85.
That was the prior one, right, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the prior one. So where is this one? Give me a moment, please.
Sick leave, Hassan, fourth from bottom.
Oh, there it is. Yep, fourth, you're right. Fourth from the bottom.
Okay, yep. Okay. So I'll leave that up on the screen. Ben, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll leave it up there. Nope. That's safety building fund. Why was that labeled? Hang on. My apologies. Okay, there's something wrong here because safety building fund. Yeah. Okay, this was one that I was working on Sunday morning, so I obviously have it off somewhere. I guess I will leave it up to the committee. I've got a printed copy here, so I'm just going to scan it in and so that I have a copy. What's the committee's preference? Do they want to approve it as drafted and then have it as a regular item, or do you want to have it as next time with the time sensitive so you see the actual resolution and then it'll be time sensitive for the 23rd with all these others?
I'd prefer, if we only have to pull one in time sensitive, I think that that's acceptable, because I'd rather see everything all together.
Yep.
Right, and honestly,
Yeah.
I'd like the last two resolutions done together because
Okay.
they do
Yeah.
interrelate.
Okay, and I think that's all right, so.
Yeah. that's
Okay.
good.
Both 13
Yeah.
and
Good to
14.
me.
So we will have that again on the 23rd
Okay,
as a time-sensitive item. My apologies.
No worries.
Somewhere I may have it saved in the wrong place somewhere. I'll have to
Right,
track
yeah,
it down.
Everything's going on lately.
At least
Save
I've got
as
a
a-
printed copy, which
Right.
doesn't make sense to me why I've got a printed copy, so I must have something wrong somewhere.
okay.
Hiding.
Just to be clear, we won't see item 13 back, because we've already approved that one. But we'll review item 14 at the next meeting as a time sensitive, and then present our 13 and 14 at that council meeting.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, so, let's see, I think, well, we're taking no action on it, so.
No action at this point, yes,
we don't
other
need to
than
do anything
directing
with
me to
that.
bring it back.
All right, anybody have anything else, regular business-wise? Otherwise, just recap on future agenda items. We'll get July reports in the next meeting. Item 14 will be coming back to us in the next meeting. We still have special assessments discussion to take place at some point, revisions to fund balance policy, and the amendment for TID 6.
And for your information on TID 6, we have given Ellers the go-ahead to start that process. They're scheduling the joint review board meeting. So we're hoping that at the November 23rd meeting, council can vote on it.
Yeah, that's like 60-ish days from when they're given the okay to begin.
It's something like that, and with Ellers knows what they're doing, so that's why we contracted
Yep,
with
yep.
them.
I can't remember what I know there's a certain time interval for it. Anyway, any other things anyone wish to add to future agenda items?
I'll be gone the next meeting, I'm gonna be on vacation at that.
Okay, enjoy your time, Ozzy. One I was thinking of, Dave, would be, when you alluded to that one GASB, the 101, is going to supersede the 54, or
16.
okay, that's gonna supersede that one. Do they have a calendar of when they're going to have these report, what do they call them? What does GASB call their
Pronouncements.
pronouncements?
Um,
Do they have a schedule of when they plan to implement those, that we could maybe look at them and get an understanding of what they are and what impact they would have for us?
Well, if you want to read it, everything's out on the website, so I can send you that link.
That'd be great.
Also, in both the management discussion and analysis, or not the MDA, I'm sorry, in the notes to the financial statement and Baker Tilly issues what's called a management letter.
Okay.
Both those documents give the pending GASB statements and their implementation dates. But I can certainly send you the link for GASB if you want to start reading them. They're exciting readings.
I'll bet that they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And we're going to be implementing GASB 87 leases this year, so,
Okay.
and that's going to change quite a few things in the accounting because we're going to have lease receivables and deferred flow of income, and lease payables, deferred outflow of resources, so,
Maybe it might be one of those where you and I can work and get maybe like Cliff's Notes version of it, and just, just as a FYI sort of thing,
okay.
and give at least a preview of what's to come. So then, because otherwise when you add these in here and then they're like, well, it's going to be because of this rule change in there, but we don't have any background on that rule change, even though we know we're going to have to do it.
Right.
Anyway,
So I can certainly send you that link so you can read it if you want to.
that'll be grand.
As long as you're on that topic, the 21 financial statements are going to show activity on both the, for lack of better terms, the income statement and balance sheet related to OPEBs, other post-employment benefits. That standard has been out for 4 years now, but 21 is the first year we've recognized it in the financial statements. So that may be one that when the financials come out, maybe it would be appropriate to have a tutorial at one of the finance committee meetings about that.
Sure.
Along that same lines, I don't know what they charged Stoughton Utilities for it, but Baker Tilly charged us $3,500 to implement it for the first year. I know how to do those entries. It didn't take $3,500 worth of my time. In fact,
Yeah.
I've been a presenter at a number of conferences on that topic. And then when I was at ETF, got very familiar with the standards, so.
Okay. All right, we have no other future agenda items, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All right, anything else anyone wants to add at the last moment? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Are any opposed? Okay, thanks, everybody.